Hello there and welcome to your January yoga practice. Happy New Year to you and welcome to this practice. In January there's this real pressure perhaps from the outside world to get going on things, and actually when we follow a seasonal way of life and we look to what nature is doing, January is all about rest. It's all about conserving our energy, but perhaps making slow nudges towards creating a little bit of fluidity in the body and mind. We can get a little stiff at this time of the year. And also just those kind of foundational thoughts, plans, ideas for the rest of the year without feeling the need to be getting into action really quickly. So this practice will follow that kind of theme where we'll be exploring creating a little bit of fluidity and movement in those places in the body that might have become a little bit stagnant, but also finding time for some stillness so that we can really connect to ourselves, conserve our energy, like I say. And when we do this, we're able to then move into the rest of the year with a little bit more intention and authenticity and alignment. So let's get started. There's nothing extra special that you need for this practice, but we will close with a little mindfulness practice, which you may choose to take as a relaxation, and just make sure you have all the comfy things. I tried recording this without my cardigan earlier on and I was just too cold. So I'm going to keep that on for as long as I can, and I invite you to do the same. Have your fluffy socks, blankets and things to hand as and when you need them. We're going to begin lying down on the back in constructive rest pose. So feel free, you may well want to have some support behind the head to begin with. I'm not going to be doing any movement just yet, but it's up to you. Knees are bent, feet are flat on the floor, and for now you might want to take feet wider, let the knees knock in, and just bringing the hands to the belly. And maybe closing the eyes for a moment and taking a long sighing breath in and out as you just settle in for a little pause as we open our practice together today. And maybe as you settle in, you can just reflect on this idea of January being a time to embrace the stillness that is still very much out there in nature, whilst very slowly, very gently allowing a little bit of fluidity to begin to come into the body, just to ease any areas of stuckness or stagnancy. And with this in mind, you might just start to notice the body, and in particular if there are any areas of the body that are feeling a little bit stuck or stagnant. And as you've noticed these areas, perhaps just keeping them in mind throughout the practice so that you can take care of them. And let's start to bring in this sense of fluidness through the breath now, starting to breathe a little bit more deeply as you inhale, and allowing for a long and full exhale. And continue in this way for the next few breaths. Allowing the belly and the chest to rise and expand. Allowing them both to sink back in as you exhale. Just feeling that sense of fluidness, even with the breath. Just starting to create some movement through the body, just through the breath. And without rushing, after the next exhale, we'll just start to stretch the arms towards the ceiling or the sky and pressing the palms against the ceiling if you could reach. Spreading through the fingers, giving them a wiggle. And then, as if you're cleaning out the inside of a vase or a bowl, we'll start to circle through the wrists. And then reversing that direction. Just getting some movement through the wrists there. And then we'll bring the arms to cactus shapes on the floor. So just shimmy down a little bit. So I've got space, and you want your elbows roughly at shoulder height. If it's a bit much, you can take them a little bit lower. And it's okay if the forearms are floating a little bit off the floor. And it might feel quite intense in places if there's a bit of tightness at the front of the chest or the shoulders. Just see what you can work with. And in this very open, possibly slightly awkward shape, we'll take a full breath in, breathing into the belly, the ribs, the chest. And then as you exhale, we're going to keep this kind of shape, but roll on the upper arms so that the forearms make their way down towards the ground and the palms are facing down. They might not fully get there, that's okay. Breathing in, we roll back, palms face up. Breathing out, we roll back down. And just cycling through these two movements for a few more times. Allowing that little bit of movement to come in through the shoulders and the chest. Being aware of what this is highlighting to you, knowing it's okay. If it feels a bit clunky, just doing what feels okay in your body. And the next time you inhale and you come back to your original cactus shape, we'll then on the exhale close the arms together like we're closing a book. Palms come to touch, forearms come to touch, elbows sort of roughly at shoulder height. And then again, breathing in, we'll open wide. And then breathing out, close. And as they close, think about the shoulder blades moving away from each other and the shoulders moving away from the floor. Maybe it's like tucking in of the chin. Keep flowing. One more. And then releasing your hands down. We're going to come and stretch the right leg towards the ceiling. It doesn't need to be poker straight, it can be bent. But again, we'll wiggle through the toes. Oh dear, mine are taking a while to warm up today. And then a rotate of the ankle, letting all the clicks and cracks happen. Going around one way and then the other. And then we'll replace that foot back down. We'll switch sides. Just taking your time, there's no rush at all. Wiggling toes first. And then taking those circles around one way. And then the other. Notice if your breathing has stopped, and if it has, please breathe. And then we'll bring both knees into the chest once you're done. And you might just pause in stillness for a moment. Maybe take a breath. If it feels like it wants to happen, you might rock from side to side, or you might do a bit of both. And then we'll just start to circle the knees round, getting a little bit more movement going on in the lower back there, a little bit of a massage. Going in the opposite direction if you haven't already. Moving slowly and with that intention of creating fluidity or breaking up any little pockets of stagnancy, just enough, not overexerting, going steady. And in moments, allowing that to afford us time to be still. Let's stay with the knees like this. We'll take them out to the sides and then we'll start to circle them out and round. So you're parting the knees, big breath in. Breathing out as you circle them round and together. Take one more. Slow breath in. And then we'll place the feet down on the mat. And the hands can just come by the sides for a moment as we start to rock the pelvis. Very gently rocking the pelvis. Feet are hip width apart, ankles under knees. So if you think about the arch of the back that moves away from the floor, as we roll the pelvis away, we're arcing that more deeply. And then when we're exhaling, we're going to flatten the back completely against the mat and the tail kind of tucks under. We're just going between these two movements with our breath. Breathing in to create that arc, breathing out to flatten. And the arms could come down by the sides. When you can stay with this, or the next time you exhale and flatten the back on the mat, press into the feet and just start to peel the spine off the mat, lifting the hips towards the ceiling. Pause in this bridge pose for a full round of breath, and then begin to lower down before repeating that cycle. So there's a little pelvic rock, and then a press in through the feet and lift. Big breath in, slow breath out as you ripple down the spine. Let's take one more. And then once you've landed, we'll bring the arms back into that little cactus shape. Take the feet as wide as the mat, and we're just going to sway the knees from side to side, nice and slowly. Breathing in deeply, breathing out slowly. The flowing of breath, the flowing of movement, just creating that fluidity in the body. Just very gently breaking up any little pockets of tightness, of stuckness. Not being in any rush. So when you're ready, we're going to come up to sit, and you might just roll to one side and come up to sit as you normally would, or you might bring your knees in towards your chest and hold on to the backs of the thighs and just start to use the legs to gain some momentum as you roll back and forth on the spine, and allow the back to be rounded like a C shape. And we'll do this a few times so the muscles either side of the spine get a nice little massage. And then once you've had a good rock and roll, we'll come up to sit. I'm still not ready to take my cardi off yet, so I'm going to keep that on. We're going to bring the soles of the feet together, and you want to feel both of your sitting bones on the mat. And you can have your feet as close to you or as far away as you see fit, so just adjust for your body. And I always like to begin this shape by just giving my feet a little bit of a rub. In fact, I give myself a foot rub probably about twice a day at least. It's a really lovely way of just connecting to your body. And then once you're ready and you've given your feet some attention, we'll hold on to the ankles or the feet or the shins, the knees, wherever feels good. And we'll just start to lift the spine as if we're in like a cow pose. We're arcing the back and then we'll round the back. Breathing in as we roll forwards on the pelvis, lift the chest. And then breathing out as we round the back, kind of tucking the tail under here. And so we're going between those two movements. So a little variation on a seated cat and cow here. And you might stay with this, or you might incorporate this roll round. So we're kind of coming forward as we arc the spine and kind of stick out the bum, and then to one side, and then rolling back, rounding the spine, tucking the tail before repeating. So we're getting quite a lot of movement going in to various different places. We've got the inner thigh, the groin, the hips, the spine, back. There's a lot going on. And if you're circling like me, you might go in the opposite direction. And then the next time you come forward, we'll leave it there. We're going to come back into a more neutral position, nice upright position. And we'll take the left hand and pop it on the right shin. Lifting nice and upright, we'll take the right hand out to the side as we take a big breath in and almost go as far back as you feel you can, kind of possibly gazing behind you. You might be stopped like I am by a wall, that's okay. And then as you exhale, we'll sweep it all the way up and over and come and let that hand land on the opposite shin. And then we'll repeat opposite side. So the left arm is reaching out towards the left side. Big breath in. And then as you exhale, take it all the way up and over, holding back onto the opposite shin. So we'll do that another couple of times. Breathing in, opening out. Breathing out, we come and plant that hand. As you breathe out and those hands are briefly landed, you might slightly round the back and separate the shoulder blades before you take the opposite side. Last round. And when you land in that final crossed shape, just pause there. A little moment of stillness, check in. And then slowly releasing. I am going to actually take off my cardi now. So, I must be starting to warm up. Okay. So we're going to come onto all fours. So take your time to get there. Put anything under the knees that feels right for your body. And we'll just start off in table pose. Just spreading the fingers and just getting a sense of how it feels to be in all fours. And then we'll begin very simply with cat and cow. Very gentle cat and cow. Breathing in to dip the belly. And then breathing out, rounding the back. And maybe taking a couple of cycles of this. Maybe you stay with this. Or perhaps you take the knees a little bit further back, the hands a little bit further forward, and both hands and knees a little bit wider. And allow the body to begin to circle round. Leaning to one side, circling back as if you're coming into a child's pose. And then maybe at some point you switch directions. I really like using this movement. I use it most days. Well, probably multiple times most days, at least once a day. Just to get quite a bit of movement in through the main parts of the body, the shoulders and the hips. And so you might stick with this if it's feeling like it's serving you, or you might just bring the hands and knees in a little bit. So we're still a little bit forwards with our hands, a little bit back with our knees, but we're back to hip width and shoulder width again. And this time we'll rock forwards and back, or back and forwards. So we're kind of a child's pose and then coming into like a half plank shape. But what we're going to see if it's possible to do is to start to ripple the spine. So from this kind of extended child's pose, we'll allow the spine to round almost into a cat shape as we transition to our half plank. And then we'll start to lift the tail in the air and dip the belly down as if we're coming into like a cow pose. And then allow that to ripple us back. And if it all just feels too complicated, just start to think to yourself, okay, if I was to imagine my body as like the ocean, or I don't know, whatever ripples in your mind, whatever visual helps you, perhaps a snake or something like that. Just see how it feels. This isn't about how it looks, it's about how it feels. And if the breath has gotten lost at all, this is a beautiful time to bring the breath into this movement. Perhaps breathing in as you ripple forwards and out as you ripple back. So you might stay with this, you might come back to the circling movements, you might come to cat and cow, you might rest and pause for a moment in child's pose. If you would like to, there's an invitation here now for us to, the next time you're in child's pose, to stay back but tuck the toes and lift up into a downward facing dog. You might paddle through the feet here. And wiggle the hips and keep it nice and fluid. And that might be enough. You might come back down and play with one of those other variations, or you might do a very similar thing. So in your dog, you might bend the knees a little bit and start to round the back as you come forward into a full plank pose. And then bend the knees again, send the bum back as if you're scooping the pelvis up, and then we repeat. Keeping that breath flowing if you can. Just that aim. If you're not sure, close the eyes and channel your inner flow, your inner ripple in whatever way suits. If it feels good, then that is okay. That is good for you. It doesn't matter how it looks. I have genuinely no idea how this is looking right now, but it feels good. Maybe after the next breath or so, you pause, lower the knees, untuck the toes, and perhaps we all just land in a very soft child's pose just for a moment. To breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. And just start to notice how that movement has impacted the body. And allowing this point of stillness to be as much of a feature of this practice as the movement. So when you're ready, slowly coming up, and you might just want to give the shoulders a little bit of a wiggle, and likewise with the wrists. There's a little blue tip outside my window that's distracting me. Hello, guy. So cute. So all that is left for us now is to come to a place of rest, and I'm going to guide you through a mindfulness practice as an alternative. You may want to lie down in Shavasana for that, but you don't have to. You could come to sit in a traditional meditation shape, or some variation of that. My cardigan has gone back on. I would encourage you to make sure you're warm and comfortable. I'm going to stay sat so I can guide you. But just use these next moments to get comfy and allow yourself to just really settle in for just a few moments of pause, of stillness. And as you're getting yourself prepared, just ask the question, am I comfortable, and how could I make myself even more comfortable? January is very much still about enjoying those simple comforts, a soft blanket, a good book, soft lighting. So when you're ready, the invitation is to close the eyes and just allow this transition to happen. Allow a moment to let the body settle. And you might guide this transition with a slow breath in and a very soft, gentle breath out. And as you settle in, you might consciously allow a softening to happen through the face, the shoulders, jaw, belly, or any other areas that like to hold on that don't need to right now. And perhaps as the body begins to soften in, you can be mindful about having the intention to relax the body. It might not happen in all parts of the body, and that's okay. But you can have the intention to give yourself complete permission to give the weight of the body over to whatever it is that is supporting you today. And then when you're ready, begin to bring your awareness to your breath. And whatever it is about the breath that you watch, it could be the rise and fall of the chest, the sensation of the air rushing in through the nose, or the sound of the breath. Doesn't matter. Just focus on that for a time. And as you attend to the breath, perhaps you can start to notice the very small little pauses right at the end of the inhale and of the exhale. Like little pockets of stillness. And as you notice these little moments of stillness right at the top of the inhale, right at the end of the exhale, perhaps you can imagine resting there. And as we start to draw towards the end of this practice, you might imagine bringing a little bit of that quality of stillness in those moments of pause at the top and bottom of the breath with you. Let's begin to take a deeper breath in and a slow breath out as we start to journey towards a more wakeful presence. And if you're lying down, you might choose to stay where you are for a bit longer. But otherwise, you might start to bring some movement into the fingers and the toes and take a stretch in a way that feels good for you right now. And in your own time, you may begin to blink open the eyes, perhaps gently coming to a seat when you're ready. And let's close the practice by bringing the palms to touch and taking a bow to ourselves and to each other, and just holding in our hearts a little bit of gratitude for making space and time to really tune in to what you need and these qualities of both stillness and very gentle fluidity in the month of January. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this practice. If you like this video and you enjoy the idea of living and practicing your yoga seasonally, please consider subscribing to my channel. Got lots of other content, and please like this video and maybe share it to a friend that needs a little bit of this in their life. Okay, take care for now and have a great January.